Sorry to keep you waiting. Complicated business.
Representative Waters is one of few Democrats who've taken principled stances against Donald Trump.
Let me just tell you, after I discovered who Trump is in the way that he conducted himself, I was never going to go to the inauguration. What's with this administration? Why are there so many people surrounding him that are connected to Russia? This is a bunch of scumbags. I have not called for the impeachment yet. He's doing it himself.
You are very vocal in supporting an investigation that could lead to President Trump being impeached.
For a reason.
That's right.
So knowing what you know,
Yes.
do you believe that lifting sanctions on Russia would be a quid pro quo, basically the presidency for petroleum?
Mr. President, I object to the certificate from the state of Georgia on the grounds that the electoral vote would not...
There's no debate.
President, I object to the 15 votes from the state of North Carolina because of the massive voter suppression and the closing of voting.
So help me God. Congratulations, Mr. President.
On this day, go ahead, President-elect, since you are attacking our new...
Someone who's roaming around at 3 a.m. tweeting should not have their fingers on the nuclear code.
This action is inhumane, it's racist, and it's immoral.
The field it looked like a million and a half people.
So let's talk about why Congresswoman Maxine Waters is a hero.
And any remaining patriotic Americans on the Republican senatorial roster, if any there yet be, to fulfill their promise of weeks ago to immediately conduct a full, open, and limitless investigation into Russian hacking during the election, into Russian coordination with the Republican presidential campaign during the election, and into the contact between the Russians and the transition team between the time of the election and the time of the inauguration. And lastly, I call for the grand jury to not only indict Flynn for his alleged violations of the Logan Act, but also for those grand jury proceedings to include the naming of at least one unindicted co-conspirator who may have been aware of and may have colluded with Flynn's improper conduct involving the Russian government. I identify that potential unindicted co-conspirator as Donald John Trump.
Sorry to keep you waiting. Complicated business. Complicated. Thank you very much. I've just received a call from Secretary Clinton. She congratulated us. It's about us. On our victory. And I congratulated her and her family on a very, very hard-fought campaign. I mean, she fought very hard.
So let's talk about why Congresswoman Maxine Waters is a hero. Representative Waters is one of few Democrats who've taken principled stances against Donald Trump and the corruption that surrounds him. Not only has she made it clear that she will not be attending Donald Donald Trump's inauguration, but she hasn't even attempted to maintain an air of faux civility while she's explaining it. And it's amazing.
And certainly the inauguration is a way of welcoming in someone to the presidency and honoring them and respecting them. I don't honor him, I don't respect him, and I don't want to be involved with him.
Her tone is so important because this is not business as usual. This is a man who, with each passing day, has more women coming out and saying that he groped them. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm somebody who believes that conservatism itself is evil. But this is a man who was monstrously unprincipled and undisciplined. And he is about to be sworn in. Now is not the time to be fake nice or fake cordial. And I love Representative Waters because she's not just taking on Trump. We know FBI Director James Comey sunk Hillary Clinton's campaign by releasing a letter about some damn emails weeks before the election, while allegedly withholding information about Trump's ties to Russia. But the general public will never know the true depths of his corruption because we are not privy to classified briefings. And that's why it felt so good to see Representative Waters come out of a briefing with him and say this.
Can you tell us anything about the discussion?
No, it's classified and we can't tell you anything. All I can tell you is the FBI director has no credibility.
We need our folks to come out and do this. And I do not care about the criticisms. The RNC's Reince Priebus came out and said that Congressman John Lewis is irresponsible for his comments about Donald Trump not being a legitimate president.
Do you plan on trying to forge a relationship with Donald Trump?
You know, I believe in forgiveness. I believe in trying to work with people. It's going to be hard. It's going to be very difficult. I don't see this president-elect as a legitimate president.
Criticizing Donald Trump is irresponsible, but the GOP doing everything that they can to obstruct President Obama over the past 8 years isn't. Boycotting the inauguration is irresponsible, but Paul Ryan and Congress being so invested in getting a win that they are willing to snatch health care from 20 million people isn't. Really? Sorry, but willingly killing people is pretty irresponsible in my book. Republicans have no moral high ground to stand on. I'm grateful for elders who don't back down. In this current Black Lives Matter moment, there is a temptation to discard the elders with stuff like, this ain't your mama's movement, or I'm not my grandpa, or whatever. But listen, we are only here because our mamas and our grandmamas made sure we survived. So I love to see someone like Congresswoman Waters refusing to mince words and making sure that her voice is heard. A whole lot of us learned how to give clear-cutting reads from women like her. We're about to enter some dark days, so I'm thankful for the light. Thank you, Representative Waters. Hey guys, it's Kim. If you enjoyed this video, like and share. Be sure to check out the links I mentioned, and if you learned something, leave a tip.
Was your decision to skip the inauguration based on Donald Trump's attack of Congressman Lewis or the result of that briefing?
Well, let me just tell you, after I discovered who Trump is in the way that he conducted himself, I was never going to go to the inauguration. I never planned, I never contemplated even going near any of those activities or those events. I don't like the way he has, misled people, the way he has lied. I don't like the way he has disparaged folks. I don't like the way he mimicked and mocked a disabled man. I don't like the way he talked about women and grabbing their private parts. And so there's nothing about him that I would want to be involved with. And certainly the inauguration is a way of welcoming in someone to the presidency and honoring them and respecting them. I don't honor him, I don't respect him, and I don't want to be involved with it.
What's with this administration? Why are there so many people surrounding him that are connected to Russia? The Attorney General of the United States of America, who is expected to enforce the law, has just violated what he's supposed to be all about. He has lied to the United States Senate under oath, and he must resign. We just learned last evening that Jeff Sessions met with the Russian ambassador on more than one occasion, but did not reveal that. First of all, keep the heat on. People should be asking questions. Some people should be frustrated, even angry, understanding the danger of this president and this administration. He cannot be trusted to tell the truth, and he must go. Put the heat on elected officials and leadership.
This is a bunch of scumbags. That's what they are. I don't believe anything that Donald Trump says. I have not called for the impeachment yet. He's doing it himself. Why should we work with someone that we can't trust? Just take a look at this. Take a look at, of course, Michael Flynn, Paul Manafort, Carter Page, Roger Stone, Wilbur Ross, and, of course, Secretary of State Rex Tillerson.
I don't participate in so-called celebrations with people that I don't honor and I don't believe in.
People laugh, they smile, they shake hands, they hug each other, they honor the president. I'm not about any of that. As far as I'm concerned, the Tea Party can go straight to hell. And all I can tell you is the FBI director has no credibility.
Donald Trump right into impeachment. I'm wondering why is it appropriate to call for the impeachment of the president less than a month after him taking office?
I have not called for the impeachment yet. He's doing it himself. For us, we want to know how deep does that go. We want to know.
Congresswoman, what's the evidence? Forgive me for jumping in, but what is the evidence that would lead to impeachment here?
Well, that's what I'm telling you. We have investigations that have already started. There's an investigation in the Senate Intelligence Committee, in the House. You have investigations going on in several places, in several ways. This man is questionable. And what I'm saying is, because we are suspicious, many of us, about who he is, where he came from, what his actions are, and all of his conflicts, and what this business of loving Putin and the Kremlin so much, we have to find out more about him.
And guess what this liberal will be all about? This liberal will be all about socializing, would be about basically taking over and the government running all of your companies.
Or whether he's talking about his relationship to Putin and the Kremlin, and knowing that they have hacked our DCCC and DNC, and knowing that he is responsible for supplying the bombs that killed innocent children and families in Aleppo. And the fact that he is wrapping his arms around Putin while Putin is continuing to advance into Korea. He really was talking about the fact that the questions are still out there about whether or not the Russians did play a role in determining what happened in our elections.
Through nearly a dozen hearings where, frankly, we were trying to fix something that wasn't broke. Mr. Chairman, we do not have a crisis at Freddie Mac, and in particular at Fannie Mae, under the outstanding leadership of Mr.
All I can tell you is the FBI director has no credibility. Well, the election has taken place, and we have to wait and see who this man is and what he's going to do. I don't believe anything that Donald Trump says.
We also think that we should to make new sanctions, especially because of last case, because they involved in internal politics of Limpopo. Maybe, as you know, it's Russian hackers attacked their service, computer service. So it was elections in Limpopo.
So they hacked into the election system?
Yeah, they hacked the election system in Limpopo, and he made his political puppets, I believe, a new president.
Limpopo?
Yes.
And then were they able to determine, control who got elected?
Yes, so they changed election company there. It's more, they did more damage for them than for the U.S.
Oh, they did even more there.
A great setback. We don't need to be having something like sequestration that's going to cause these job losses, over 170 million jobs that could be lost. And so...
You are very vocal in supporting an investigation that could lead to President Trump being impeached.
That
For?
Well, first of all, let me just say that my colleagues and the leadership would not like to hear me say the I word, but I say it over and over again: impeachment, impeachment, impeachment. Because this president absolutely was in collusion with the Kremlin and Putin in Russia during the campaign. I believe that. And I believe that they undermined our democracy by interfering with our election. And I think that meets the criteria for impeachment. High crimes and misdemeanors. But in addition to that, the story that I'm trying to get out is the connection of all of those around him with Russia and with the Kremlin, and the fact that they're going for the oil. That's why you hear a lot about lifting the sanctions. They want to lift those sanctions. Tillerson, who was appointed to be the Secretary of State, came from Exxon. He was the CEO of Exxon, and he negotiated a deal with Putin in Russia for a multi-billion-dollar drilling deal in the Arctic. And so they got to get those sanctions lifted that Obama put on so that they can get the drilling done and all of his cohorts can make money. So I'm really going to keep on that so that people will understand. Follow the money. Follow the money.
Coming out of the briefing that you had with FBI Director James Comey, you said that he didn't have any credibility.
That's right.
Recently, you were on Chris Hayes' show, and you said that Rex Tillerson was in the position of Secretary of State for a reason.
That's right.
So knowing what you know, do you believe that lifting sanctions on Russia would be a quid pro quo, basically the presidency for petroleum?
Absolutely. And I spent a lot of time looking at some of the people in the administration, like Wilbur Ross and Tillerson, and understanding their connection to oil and gas industry, and also some of the other people who may not be in the administration, but are his friends who are in oil and gas industry, looking at Manafort's connection to the Ukraine and his consultancy there, and their connection to Putin. I'm convinced that lifting the sanctions is their #1 agenda. And I think that this conversation has been going on during the campaign, and I do believe that they're guilty of collusion. And I think that if we get the investigations that we really need to drill down on these connections and what they're all about, we're going to find that they meet the criteria for impeachment.
I mean, that's the most insane, audacious quid pro quo, I think, in the history of governmental corruption. Would that not be? Can you think of a more audacious quid pro quo?
No, I can't. But when I take a look at Tillerson, who was the CEO of Exxon, he's the one that negotiated the deal with Putin to drill in the Arctic. That's for billions of dollars. And when I take a look at many of these people that I'm alluding to that have connections to the Ukraine and to Russia, who are all in this administration or related to it in some way, I really do think it's audacious, but it's billions of dollars involved here. And I think that many of these folks are concentrating on the possibility of reaping huge benefits from it.
Under the surface makes the mainstream get so nervous. It's time for purpose, for news to serve.
Mr. President, I object to the certificate from the state of Georgia on the grounds that the electoral vote
No debate. There's no debate.
President, I object to the 15 votes from the state of North Carolina because of the massive voter suppression and the closing of voting. Mr. President, I object to the votes for South Carolina because of the Russian intrusion. I object because people are horrified by the overwhelming evidence of Russian interference in our election.
I object to the certificate from the state of North Carolina based on violations of the Voting Rights Act and acting by the...
I object to the certificate from the state of Alabama on the grounds that these are confirmed and illegal activities engaged by the government of Russia designed to interfere with our election and the widespread violations of the Voting Rights Act that unlawfully suppressed thousands of votes in the state of Alabama.
I have an objection because 10 of the 29 electoral votes cast by Florida were cast by electors not lawfully certified because they violated Florida's prohibition against dual office holders.
I wish to ask, is there one United States senator who will join me in this letter of objection?
So help me God. Congratulations, Mr. President.
On this day, we gather because we have chosen hope over fear.
The crime and the gangs and the drugs.
Unity of purpose over conflict and discord.
Mothers and children trapped in poverty.
The time has come to set aside childish things.
We will no longer accept politicians who are all talk and no action.
Our patchwork heritage is a strength.
The wealth, strength, and confidence of our country,
our weakness,
has dissipated.
We are a nation of Christians and Muslims.
Rusted out factories scattered like tombstones across the landscape.
Jews and Hindus and non-believers.
One by one, the factories shuttered and left our shores.
We remain the most prosperous, powerful nation on earth.
This American carnage stops right here.
We reject as false the choice between our safety and our ideals.
We've defended other nations' borders while refusing to defend our own.
With hope and virtue, let us brave once more the icy currents.
America will start winning again.
And endure what storms may come.
Winning like never before.
Let it be said by our children's children that when we were tested, we refused to let this journey end.
Together, we will make America great again.
Thank you. God bless you. And God bless the United States of America.
Thank you, God bless you, and God bless America.
Mr. President-elect,
go ahead.
Mr. President-elect, since you are attacking our news organization,
I think it's a disgrace that information that was false and fake and never happened got released to the public. As far as BuzzFeed, which is a failing pile of garbage, writing it, I think they're going to suffer the consequences. They already are. And as far as CNN going out of their way to build it up, it's a disgrace. And I think they ought to apologize to start with Michael Cohen.
Sir, since you're attacking us, can you give us a question?
Go ahead.
Mr. President-elect.
Go ahead.
Mr. President-elect, since you are attacking our news organization, can you give us a chance? You are attacking our news organization. Can you give us a chance to ask a question, sir?
Go ahead.
Sir, can you state, Mr. President-elect,
go ahead.
Can you state categorically, Mr. President-elect, can you give us a question? You're attacking us. Can you give us a question?
Don't be rude.
Can you give us a question?
I'm not going to give you a question.
Can you state categorically?
You are fake news.
Sir,
go ahead.
Can you state categorically that nobody... No, Mr. President-elect, that's not appropriate. You are attacking our news organization. Now, can you give it...
They're talking about a fence in the Republican Congress. Would you accept a fence?
We're going to have a wall. It's going to be a big, powerful wall. Don't worry about it. We're going to build a wall. Don't even think about it. I'm building the wall. We're going to build a wall. I say, don't build that fence, right? Don't build that fence. Fences don't work. Don't build that fence.
Would you accept a fence?
For certain areas, I would.
Are you going to ask for a special prosecutor to investigate Hillary Clinton?
Honestly, she should be locked up. Crooked Hillary, ladies and gentlemen. She's as crooked as they come. If I win, I am going to instruct my Attorney General to get a special prosecutor to look into your situation.
Special prosecutor, here we go.
Well, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to think about it. A special prosecutor? I don't want to hurt them. I don't want to hurt them. They're good people. Let me ask you about Obamacare.
I'm going to repeal and replace your disastrous Obama. Terminate Obamacare. Repeal and replace the disaster known as Obamacare.
Are you going to make sure that people with preconditions are still covered?
Yes, because it happens to be one of the strongest tests. You're going to keep that also with the children living with their parents for an extended period. You're going to very much try to keep that.
The field it looked like a million and a half people. I get up this morning, I turn on one of the networks, and they show an empty field. I said, wait a minute, I made a speech. I don't doubt the field it looked like a million and a half people.
Photographs of the inaugural proceedings were intentionally framed in a way, in one particular tweet, to minimize the enormous support that had gathered on the National Mall. This was the largest audience to ever witness an inauguration, period.
And they said Donald Trump did not draw well. I said, it was almost raining. The rain should have scared him away, but God looked down and he said, we're not going to let it rain on your speech. It looked, honestly, it looked like a million and a half people. Whatever it was, but it went all the way back to the Washington Monument. Of the 20-block area all the way back to the Washington Monument was packed.
Someone who's roaming around at 3 a.m. tweeting should not have their fingers on the nuclear codes. I don't know, perhaps living life high up in a tower in a world of exclusive clubs. Measuring success by wins and losses, the number of zeros in your bank account, perhaps you just develop a different set of values.
Here in America, we don't give in to our fears. We don't build up walls to keep people out because we know that our greatness has always depended on contributions from people who were born elsewhere.
Making life or death, war or peace decisions, a president just can't pop off or lash out irrationally. No! We need an adult in the White House.
When someone is cruel or acts like a bully, you don't stoop to their level. No, our motto is, when they go low, we go high. This was not just a lewd conversation. This wasn't just locker room banter. This was a powerful individual speaking freely and openly about sexually predatory behavior. It's about basic human decency. It's about right and wrong. And we simply cannot endure this or expose our children to this any longer, not for another minute, and let alone for 4 years.
I've watched her. When she gets knocked down, she doesn't complain. She doesn't cry foul. No, she gets right back up. It is becoming increasingly clear that to him, most of America is them. But here's the thing. Look at us. We all know better. Whether we're Democrats, Republicans, or independents, it does not matter. We all understand that an attack on any one of us is an attack on all of us.
Don't let anyone ever tell you that this country isn't great. That somehow we need to make it great again. Because this right now is the greatest country on earth.
Sorry to keep you waiting. Complicated business. Complicated. Thank you very much. I've just received a call from Secretary Clinton. She congratulated us, it's about us, on our victory. And I congratulated her and her family on a very, very hard-fought campaign. I mean, she fought very hard.
This action is inhumane, it's racist, and it's immoral.
What message does this send to a quarter of the world's population? What message does it send to Muslims all around the world? It sends a message: you're not wanted in the United States because of your religious faith.
As a Muslim, I find it deeply worrying and disturbing, and I find it deeply fearful for us to live in this country in the midst of reprisals already in countries like Canada.
If we want to be a global leader, this government needs to show global leadership. Where is it?
And when political leaders amplify tensions, when they fail to show courage and leadership and stand up in the face of division and hatred, then we send the wrong message.
Try to recall along with me as I hid underneath the stairs when two fascist dictators, Mussolini and Hitler, were raining bombs on towns and cities in Britain. Now this government's hand in hand with another fascist, Trump. Well, the first people detained for, I believe, 19 hours was an Iraqi interpreter who had worked with the US military for 10 years. I mean, if that's not perversity in terms of a measure, I do not know what is.
This is, of course, a highly controversial policy which has caused unease, and I repeat that this is not an approach that this government would take.
I suspect that Miss Liberty is holding her head in shame at the moment.
So let's talk about why Congresswoman Maxine Waters is a hero. Representative Waters is one of few Democrats who've taken principled stances against Donald Trump and the corruption that surrounds him. Not only has she made it clear that she will not be attending Donald Trump's inauguration, but she hasn't even attempted to maintain an air of faux civility while she's explaining it. And it's amazing.
And certainly the inauguration is a way of welcoming in someone to the presidency and honoring them and respecting them. I don't honor him, I don't respect him, and I don't want to be involved with him.
Her tone is so important because this is not business as usual. This is a man who, with each passing day, has more women coming out and saying that he groped them. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm somebody who believes that conservatism itself is evil. But this is a man who is monstrously unprincipled and undisciplined. He is about to be sworn in. Now is not the time to be fake nice or fake cordial. And I love Representative Waters because she's not just taking on Trump. We know FBI Director James Comey sunk Hillary Clinton's campaign by releasing a letter about some damn emails weeks before the election, while allegedly withholding information about Trump's ties to Russia. But the general public will never know the true depths of his corruption because we are not privy to classified briefings. And that's why it felt so good to see Representative Waters come out of a briefing with him and say this.
Can you tell us anything about the discussion?
No, it's classified and we can't tell you anything. All I can tell you is the FBI director has no credibility.
We need our folks to come out and do this. And I do not care about the criticisms. The RNC's Reince Priebus came out and said that Congressman John Lewis is irresponsible for his comments about Donald Trump not being a legitimate president.
Do you plan on trying to forge a relationship with Donald Trump?
You know, I believe in forgiveness. I believe in trying to work with people. It's going to be hard. It's going to be very difficult. I don't see this president-elect as a legitimate president.
Criticizing Donald Trump is irresponsible, but the GOP doing everything that they can to obstruct President Obama over the past 8 years isn't. Boycotting the inauguration is irresponsible, but Paul Ryan and Congress being so invested in getting a win that they are willing to snatch health care from 20 million people isn't. Really? Sorry, but willingly killing people is pretty irresponsible in my book. Republicans have no moral high ground to stand on. I'm grateful for elders who don't back down. In this current Black Lives Matter moment, there is a temptation to discard the elders with stuff like, this ain't your mama's movement, or I'm not my grandpa, or whatever. But listen, we are only here because our mamas and our grandmamas made sure we survived. So I love to see someone like Congresswoman Waters refusing to mince words and making sure that her voice is heard. A whole lot of us learned how to give clear, cutting reads from women like her. We're about to enter some dark days, so I'm thankful for the light. Thank you, Representative Waters. Hey guys, it's Kim. If you enjoyed this video, like and share. Be sure to check out the links I mentioned, and if you learned something, leave a tip.
So help me God.
Congratulations, Mr. President.
On this day, we gather because we have chosen hope over fear.
The crime and the gangs and the drugs.
Unity of purpose over conflict and discord.
Mothers and children trapped in poverty.
The time has come to set aside childish things.
We will no longer accept politicians who are all talk and no action.
Our patchwork heritage is a strength.
The wealth, strength, and confidence of our country,
our weakness,
has dissipated.
We are a nation of Christians and Muslims.
Rusted out factories scattered like tombstones across the landscape.
Jews and Hindus and non-believers.
One by one, the factories shuttered and left our shores.
We remain the most prosperous, powerful nation on earth.
This American carnage stops right here.
We reject as false the choice between our safety and our ideals.
We've defended other nations' borders while refusing to defend our own.
With hope and virtue, let us brave once more the icy currents.
America will start winning again.
And endure what storms may come.
Winning like never before.
Let it be said by our children's children that when we were tested, we refused to let this journey end.
Together, we will make America great again.
Thank you. God bless you. And God bless the United States of America.
Thank you, God bless you, and God bless America.
And any remaining patriotic Americans on the Republican senatorial roster, if any there yet be, to fulfill their promise of weeks ago to immediately conduct a full, open, and limitless investigation into Russian hacking during the election, into Russian coordination with the Republican presidential campaign during the election, and into the contact between the Russians and the transition team between the time of the election and the time of the inauguration. And lastly, I call for the grand jury to not only indict Flynn for his alleged violations of the Logan Act, but also for those grand jury proceedings to include the naming of at least one unindicted co-conspirator who may have been aware of and may have colluded with Flynn's improper conduct involving the Russian government. I identify that potential unindicted co-conspirator as Donald John Trump. The specific crimes included in the Russian meddling in our presidential campaign of 2015-2016 and in the Russian interference in our presidential election of 2016 are as yet unclear. But in a series of events last week that seemed like mere individual explosions during the blitzkrieg of Trumpian evil, the outline of what has reportedly been done by Michael Flynn, who is at this moment still the man officially charged with advising a reckless and seemingly mentally unstable president on all national security issues, that outline became substantially more clear. Flynn, Lieutenant General, United States Army, retired, shown here on Thursday, December 10, 2015 in Moscow, seated at a table with the Russian dictator Putin at a dinner for the Russian RT television network by whom Flynn has been paid. Later, seen leading a standing ovation for Putin at the same event. On Wednesday, February 8, Mr. Flynn again denied that he had privately discussed U.S. sanctions against Russia with Russian Ambassador Sergei Kislyak on December 29th while Barack Obama was still president. If proven, such discussions by Flynn could be illegal interference in stated American foreign policy under federal statutes referred to as the Logan Act. If proven, such discussions could also indicate that Flynn misled or lied to Press Secretary Spicer and Vice President Pence, both of whom issued repeated public denials on Flynn's behalf. On Thursday, February 9, Flynn's spokesman changed the general's story. Flynn now, quote, indicated that while he had no recollection of discussion sanctions, he couldn't be certain that the topic never came up, unquote. On the same day, the newspaper The Washington Post cited 9 current and former holders of senior positions in U.S. agencies with access to U.S. intelligence about the Flynn-Kislyak conversations, including transcripts of their phone calls. According to the paper, all 9 insisted, quote, Flynn's references to the election-related sanctions were explicit. 2 of the sources say further that the intelligence indicates Flynn urged Russia to delay any response to the sanctions until Trump was sworn in and could change them. On Friday, December 30, 2016, after the Flynn-Kislyak conversations, the Russian dictator Putin said he would delay any response to the Obama sanctions. Also on Friday, December 30, 2016, the then president-elect tweeted, quote, great move on delay by V. Putin. I always knew he was very smart. The likelihood that Trump's message to Putin, Trump's close relationship with Flynn, and Flynn's conversations with Kislyak are all coincidental, reportedly after and before the election, is so small as to be almost laughable. And if they are not coincidental, Trump had guilty knowledge of Flynn's conversations with Kislyak, and if Flynn can be indicted for violations of the Logan Act, Trump's awareness of this crime and his cover-up of it elevates him to the status of possible unindicted co-conspirator with other implications relative to presidential impeachment. On April 27, 2016, then-candidate Trump gave his first major foreign policy speech. Seated in the front row of the audience at the Mayflower Hotel in Washington, D.C., Russian Ambassador Sergei Kislyak. As of 5:30 p.m. on Friday, February 10, a White House official quoted by the Associated Press said Trump has, quote, full confidence, unquote, in Michael Thomas Flynn. The interference by a foreign power in our government, in our country, is intolerable. Collusion between a hostile foreign power and representatives of our government, or representatives of a government yet to be, risks our independent existence as a nation and renders those who commit such collusion, if not necessarily by legal definition, then in their hearts, traitors. They will be exposed, rooted out of any position of responsibility in this country, and punished to the fullest extent of the law. And that begins with the immediate indictment and arrest of Michael Thomas Flynn and the identification as unindicted co-conspirator of Donald John Trump. Resist. Peace.